G'day folks, welcome to this report of the first day of the historical campaign of the Battle of Tinian. This is scenario 4, the full campaign. This is starting with a view of the entire island, so you can see sort of where everything is. You can see the Japanese starting to move up from Tinian town to the north. This is where all the action is. I'll zoom on this in just a moment. All these forces here have recently been released and they're starting to move north to reinforce those Japanese positions. Let me show you what's happening up in the north. So the first half of the day went very well for the Americans. They did suffer one company casualty in those first 3-4 hours, but they were inflicting a lot of damage on the Japanese, particularly on the Imperial naval units over here. You may notice, if you played this before, that the 24th Regiment is out on the left and the 25th on the sort of east-northeast. That just kind of evolved as these units landed, and some of the 25th units rushed out to focus on the Imperial Navy out here, and as a result some of the 24th Regiment companies were diverted to the south, and that drew the rest of the regiment out there. They have suffered very heavily since midday on this first day. I'll get to that in a moment, but first let me talk about this area around here. You can see the 25th Regiment, this blue banded formation, has almost all but cleared out all the red Imperial Naval forces. There's a direct fire gun here with a small infantry company, and another piece of artillery over here which has been flipped to in column. That's all that's left of the Navy up in the north. And they've cleared it all out on the first day, suffering 2 company casualties. And those 2 casualties came right at the very end of the day, which is unfortunate. I can't even remember how it happened. I think it may have been some artillery fire. But most of the tension has been out here. The 24th sort of had to cross over here and move out to the south. They tried to set up a sort of defensive perimeter, and we had 2 Japanese formations, these red banded units and blue banded units just to their south. 2 Japanese heroes rose up, one there, another one I believe, I thought it was here. Oh, it's been eliminated, or routed. It was with the unit that routed. The Japanese encroached into this beachhead area with some big stacks. They put both formations here and caused a lot of casualties. Once they had this big stack with their support weapons, they were inflicting a lot of damage, a lot of disorganization hits on the American defenders, and the Americans just could not rally quickly enough. Despite being in foxholes, sugarcane is a -1 defense modifier. The foxholes don't really add much for direct fire. And then at the end of the day, they launched a bonsai charge. This is their special rule that at the end of the first day or the second day, the Japanese can launch a series of bonsai charges. They did this along the line. It went pretty well in this hex here, but failed elsewhere. The Americans rolled pretty well in those assault rolls. The Japanese did use their Scotchu marker to re-roll one of those. That was their once per day re-roll. But this 24th Regiment has lost 4 infantry companies, all pretty much in these 2 hexes. They keep moving up, trying to sort of defend themselves, and just the weight of Japanese direct fire against these hexes from 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes around here, just focusing on these 2 areas, has just destroyed a lot of these American companies. So the 24th Regiment is looking very weak at the moment. 4 companies down, not much left on the island at this stage. About to be reinforced though by the 23rd Division, which were going to head through the middle here, but we'll see what happens. So it's a bit... the Japanese also rolled an event which gave them 4 victory points. So the Japanese now have inflicted 6 company casualties for 12 victory points, plus 4 gives them 16 victory points at the end of the first day. I've got to say, I think that's looking pretty good for the Japanese, and very, very, very concerned about the Americans. Having said that, the Japanese really did exhaust their forces out here in these bonsai charges. They did lose about 3 companies, plus another one up here which decided to try a bonsai charge and failed. So they lost 4 companies in these bonsai charges. And they are looking pretty weak at the moment, but as you saw a moment ago, we do have some reinforcements rushing up their roads to the north. These guys will be here in 1 turn. These guys are probably still 3 turns away. So they'll probably arrive around midday on the second day. Which is of great concern to the Americans. They have lost, I should also say, they keep rolling poorly for their support weapons. So the support weapons keep breaking and being taken out of play. You can see this hex here. They do have a heavy machine gun. It's just 1 infantry company there, one there. I believe some mortars behind the lines. They did have a bit of a perimeter here that was lost. You may notice the 2 hexes on fire here because of flamethrowers. This one was pretty good. Managed to eliminate a Japanese unit. This one was largely inconsequential and in fact became a bit of a barrier that the Americans had to move around. They're now moving, however, on these last naval defenders, and then they can swing around to the east side of the island. So yes, the story of the first day is an initially successful landing. The Americans, it's really a tale of 2 halves. The first half of the day went very well. 1 company lost due to initial disorganization. And then the second half of the day, this Japanese counterattack and bonsai charges just was very, very successful. And the Americans are trying to occupy the rocky terrain here to give them some defense modifiers. But I don't. Maybe they should have pulled back earlier, formed a line around here. Air support and naval support was very effective early in the day. And the Japanese also struggled for dispatch points, so they couldn't activate much. They also saved up, I should also say, the Japanese saved up their dispatch points and weren't activating many forces early in the day. They waited for these formations to get in position, and then they began activating their formations and divisions, or rather the Imperial Army and Imperial Navy. And they kind of struck with a concentrated effort, which was very effective against the Americans. Maybe the Americans should have just stopped to line around here, not gotten so close to those units, pulled the Japanese out into the sugarcane area. Yeah, the value of hindsight, I guess. So that is the end of the first day. We're about to head into the second, and the Americans really do need to be much more careful with their forces. They are, well, 2 things. Now that the Japanese have 16 victory points, the Americans need to be careful that they don't increase Japanese victory points any further. At the same time, it's erasing its time because the faster they can clear the island, the more points they deduct from the Japanese. If you look at those victory point conditions up the top right here, if they can clear the island before the 20th of July, they deduct 20 victory points. By the, let's say, the 30th of July, they deduct 6 victory points. So the Americans need to balance moving quickly to subtract those victory points with being careful such that they don't lose any more casualties. Whereas the Japanese are feeling pretty comfortable. They can really afford to throw some more bonsai charges out at these Americans if they can inflict a few more casualties. I don't know if the Americans are going to be able to recover regardless of how quickly they advance across the island. So stay tuned. I'll report back on the second day as soon as that's complete.